Hello, everyone. Welcome to Polkadot broadcast. Krista here. This is our monthly roundtable for March. There's a lot of significant shift in March. The DAP, inflation halving, and DOT EDF. All of them have been gone live. So of this all of those shifts have a significant impact for the Polkadot ecosystem for long term. So I think it's a great time for us to break it down, to dive deep into all this topic with all of our guests today. So to kick things off, let's start with a quick round of introduction. And could each of you briefly introduce yourself? So how about we start with Tyrone?
Hey guys, my name's Tyrone, and hey everybody, old friends. Nice to gathering here in March, and I think right now the ECC is going on, and our team Bifrost, we have some members right there, and we are hosting something offline, interesting campaigns with Bifrost, and also the new network we are supporting by our cross-chain framework, which is Faros. So something exciting things happening in this month, and we've launched a new liquid staking skills for AI. So there's something also and a breaking news in this month, and happy to talk about this in deeps in our today's topic. So thanks for inviting.
Well, AI is a trendy topic. I think the audience will be very interested in that. Looking forward to it. So, how about Max?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Kristen, for inviting again. Always good to be on the show. So I'm Max from Harbor Industrial Capital, Polkadot focused VC fund. We've been admittedly lying a little bit low over the last month or two, observing all the changes in the market and in the Polkadot ecosystem that have been taking place, and not really actively deploying new capital as we're looking to seek out more clarity and new information coming through to better understand strategy and next steps. But yeah, that's why I'm here on this call today. Happy to discuss about all the things that have been happening in the ecosystem, because as you already said in the introduction, there clearly have been a lot of new changes here. I think like many people are kind of repositioning themselves, figuring out what's the best way for them to add value. And I think that's kind of the stage we're in, and happy to discuss about that on the show today.
Yeah, I think we are all. It is obvious that not only Polkadot but also all the Web3 industry are entering in the bear market. I think it's not only Polkadot is shifting, and I think quite a lot of contributors in the whole ecosystem are repositioning themselves. So I think it's a good thing. We can give away the bad part and start from something new and more something more potential, have more potential. Okay, so last but not least, let's welcome Pacman.
I think everybody should already know I've been with Christian many times on Polkadot. I've been a big fan of Christian for a long time, quite a few years now actually. I'm currently CMO for Mandala Chain. We were a parachain on Polkadot, and now we're actually a multi-chain project. We can talk more about it later on. Talking about the reset, I think I completely agree with Max. I think this reset was needed. I mean, at the start, I was one of the people as well that didn't really agree with a lot of things at Polkadot ecosystem. I was like, no, this shouldn't happen. This should happen this way. But like more you think about it, more you dive deeper, you realize actually a lot of this reset was needed. And repositioning is another word that I strongly agree with, because a lot of things that happened in the Polkadot ecosystem at the time made sense, but now looking back, it doesn't make sense at all. But again, we can talk about it in the details. But in the intro, yes, thanks for having me, Christian, and happy to be here.
Yeah. Firstly, congratulations, your step on the CMO of a Mandala chain.
Yeah, thanks. I've been with Mandala chain for a couple, actually more than 2 years now. So this was I was always in like kind of marketing side. CMO was just an official title. I was always a CMO, to be honest. But it's just an official title. I'm not really bothered about titles, to be honest.
Yeah, Mandala chain is one of the important portfolio from HIC. I
That's
think.
right. That's right.
Yeah, good choice. Okay, for first part, let's talk about March. March usually, when the weather starts to warm up, but nowadays the market still feels pretty cold. So how has the March been for you guys? And have you been affected by the market at all? And what have you been focusing on recently on March? So who wanna kick it off?
I can go. I mean, a lot of uncertainty for sure, because when the war started, the Iranian war, we didn't realize how much the impact is going to be. To be honest, to the whole world, even China, Japan, like countries are like thousands of miles away are being affected by the same war, and our industry is no different. Stocks, commodities, silver, gold, metals, crypto, everything is basically affected by this war. And I think most of this month of March has been around uncertainty. We don't know whether we're in a bull market, we're in a bear market, what's going to happen, whether we should, in terms of like, I'm sure Max, like if from a VC point of view as well, you wouldn't know whether you should invest or should you wait, because you don't know. It's just basically very, very kind of uncertain times. So the most of my March has been trying to figure out the next steps, basically.
Yeah. Focus on what to do next.
Yeah.
So Max?
I mean, I would definitely echo that, right? I mean, it's been not an easy month for the markets. And I think a lot of capital is sitting on the sidelines. Of course, you can like speculatively like bet on, okay, prices are down, so let's go all in. But we're not really doing that. I mean, we're also sort of the old mantra, cash is king, is kind of coming back. We're obviously bullish on the Polkadot ecosystem, but like we've always have been, but we're not like actively deploying right now. It's safer for us to preserve our cash balance and wait for like a clearer direction, I guess, of the market and the ecosystem overall. Fair enough, right? During these times, it's often good to go a little bit back to first principles to think what has been going well, what has not been going well. What I can say is that we seem to be quite in the trend here, in the sense that that's also what other VC funds are doing. I mean, I spoke to another much larger VC fund here in Hong Kong recently. They're kind of like in a similar strategy. I think nobody's like too exuberant at the moment. I haven't really like quite seen the people who go, okay, buy the dip and all in and YOLO. I guess everyone is a little bit more sober. Everyone's like, okay, let's preserve what we have. Let's wait for direction. And these times in the market cycle are also important, right? To like clean out, the projects that clearly were not viable. Also the funds that were over leveraged, and kind of see what are the working strategies, which ones are not. For us, I mean, in the fund, we have no leverage, right? We're well capitalized, so we're not really like afraid of these kind of more bearish times. We can kind of sit this out, like take it easy, right? observe it a little bit from the sidelines and see what's coming next.
Yeah, it's a time to reflect and to wait for, more opportunities in the future, and also a good time to have a relax. You can go around, sleep more.
Yeah,
Exactly.
fair point. Yeah. Fair point, especially under the current, circumstances for uncertainty, that the cash is king is always the theory. So, yeah, I'm totally agree with Max, and seems not quite active for no matter it's the institutional or capital funds right now. So, but you can see the AI field is quite active this month. We're not talking about the crypto here, but the AI field is not quite interesting. You can see if any of the waves in the founding waves in these months. I think you cannot see it either. So what I mean by that is, although it's a quite hot topic at the current circumstances, but the cash flow, or we say the liquidity, is not quite active in the market. So for crypto, or also for Web3, it's still same the situation. But what we can do in the right direction is we keep building for the infrastructure. Just wait and be patient, until there's real applications and the mass adoption is coming in. We're quite exciting to see, if the PayFi is coming in with the AI generations, that we can see, the RWAs, AIs, and the real, payments occurs in this field. And then I think the infrastructure and the products will start, empowering the real use cases at that time. So let's be patient, and I think right now is a good time to think, to know what is the right direction that we need to deliver to. So it's always the good time to think ourselves, and we can make the great choice.
Yeah, agree with you. Because we have been always busy on our routine work. Now it's really a great time for more deep reflection on every aspect of the industry, of the project, and the direction of Web3, and etc. PayFi, I think, is a good point. People say that maybe PayFi gonna be the only, the most successful use cases, that blockchain can bring to mass adoption. Yeah, but I think if this really can go to the mass adoption, it's a very exact scenario, and I think that's also gonna bring a lot of profit to the relative project or applications. It's a good thing. Okay, let's move on to some specific topics. First is to Max. Um, as a capital, you guys are always very keen to the to the financial policies. The long awaited DOT ETF has been listed, and can trade on the can be traded. But it's the ETF nowadays, not like when the Bitcoin ETF launched. The market doesn't respond very exciting. It seems very quiet. So from your perspective, how do you see the long-term impact of ETFs on the DOT ETF? And do you think the marginal impact of new ETF listings starting to fade?
Yes, that's probably the case. Like the marginal impact of ETF listings is going to fade or has already started fading, right? As you say, it's not the same as the first Bitcoin ETF anymore. Having said that, I still think it's a clear positive that we have this live because it does indeed like allow another new class of capital access this asset class, Polkadot ecosystem in that case, and it also comes with like a new regulatory guidance about DOT not being a security, which is very good, which is very positive. So I think we all like welcome that, and I'm also well aware of the teams at Polkadot, at Parity and the foundation who have been working towards this goal of getting this listing in the US live. There will be more listings coming as well. New additional DOT ETFs. I'm not fully at liberty to talk about that, but this will be coming live. So these are new liquidity channels, and obviously that's a positive thing. I think nobody's going to say that's a bad thing, but in response to your question, is of course not so. That in itself isn't really like going to be the game changer that maybe some people hoped that it's going to be. What is really missing is like sort of a clearer narrative, right? A revival of like a narrative based on which investors are going to pick up the ETF, start buying it, right? I mean, the channels are there, right? So we're not really like in a lack of, we don't have like a lack of trading venues or vehicles that can be used to buy DOT. But yeah, I mean, the narrative is currently not very clearly defined. Having said that, there are, of course, a lot of people like working on defining this new stage of what is Polkadot, what is Web3, why does Web3 matter, what are like sort of the principles of Web3, also in terms of self-sovereignty, in terms of privacy, in terms of individuality, right? So there are a lot of things like happening under the hood. We're familiar with like some of these discussions, we're involved in some of those. But it hasn't really been communicated to date very effectively to the markets, so that people who potentially could buy the ETF have something to get excited about, right? Something to rally around, right? There hasn't really been like a big like outwards facing campaign in terms of like a more like educational campaign about like what's going on, what is Polkadot trying to build. Why should you pay attention to this ETF, right? Or or is the ETF the right vehicle for you? Or maybe you wanna directly purchase the token, directly get involved in governance, in building stuff, right? In this new sort of more privacy and individuality focused layer that is getting built out at the moment. So I guess like the way I would describe it is, with this ETF, right, that got launched in the US, we're putting the rails in place, right, on top of which, hopefully, in the next bull cycle, a lot of retail users, a lot of institutional users can get onboarded, right? So that's a good thing, right? Like using these kind of more quiet times to build out those rails and have them in place in the future. I mean, I think Polkadot is not going anywhere, right? We're here for the long term. But obviously, at the moment, the narrative isn't quite there. I believe that, in the foreseeable future, that is going to change, right? That this new narrative that Polkadot is working on is getting communicated better, right? That there is like a more coordinated like effort of telling that story, why people should pay attention to Polkadot. And we can go into that, in this conversation here as well. But, for now, I just want to say that, currently this is not being communicated very well. But I think it's good to put the rails in place, right? These are important rails, these legal rulings that, or like, the president that it sets. These are like important things to have. It's things that we needed anyways, right? And but just to answer your question, like purely based on the ETF alone, right, without the narrative shift, we're not going to get any new inflows into Polkadot.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, to realize the vision of Polkadot is the core, is the core, because the ETF just get exposure to the liquidity, but get attraction from the users, from the market. For long term, the Polkadot have to, there have to be demand, and the narrative have to be attractive to the market, or the market wanna see what really Polkadot can achieve. Anyway, for the long term, the narrative is how to get attraction from the market is the most important aspect. Okay. Back to Thai Ring. I think all the shift in March, it feels like we are moving away from the old model of high inflation and passive staking rewards toward something more efficient driven and demand driven. Rewards might become more limited, and the capital efficiency seems to matter much more now. So from Bifrost perspective, how do these changes affect your protocol? Have you noticed any changes in user behavior?
Yeah, apparently the inflation has been slashed heavily. So it was about 10%, and right now is only like 4.5 or 4.5 to 5 percent of APR inflation. And to be honest, yes, it's actually affected the Bifrost income, because the business of Bifrost liquid staking is like we're taking a commission from the staking reward. So yeah, transparently, it is what it is. So the inflation is halving, so which means the income of Bifrost is halving as well. But for us, as the infrastructure of liquid staking, we provide another framework, which is the cross-chain liquid staking framework. So which means we can, by using the Polkadot layer 1 to provide the services for external chains. So that's the reason why we announced the collaborations with Pharaoh's network, and so we made another liquid staking delivered to the Pharaohs for liquid staking. The major of these plans for increasing the protocol income. So that's the most important thing, that we make sure all of the liquid staking business not going, but not depending on any of the funding or the keep funding proposals from Web3 Foundation. So we make sure that we can make things running ourselves. And the other key thing is that the asset have been merged, and the DAP, the most important thing right now, is quite looking forward to see what happens will be once the unbounding time has been squeezed. So there will be a squeeze from 28 days to around 2 days, and there will be like capital account to make the founding matches for staking and unbounding. So that's a quite interesting mechanism. And Bifrost actually have launched this mechanism 1.5 years ago. So for like the VDOT users, they literally can matching for fast unbounding. If there is any of the new dot coming in for staking, and there will be unbounding for V dot on the other side. So Polkadot made the same, actually, the mechanism for dot staking and unbounding. So that's quite interesting. And what I can see for that is the quite new efficiency capital use for the liquidity. And I think that's the infrastructure and the foundation to make sure the asset hub can be the basement of the app and financial applications for DeFi. So first thing is the halving of the inflation. That's good for health of the competition between RWA's assets, stablecoin assets, and those different portfolio assets in the financial field. And the other one is the slashing of the unbounding time, and it's also good for the application in DeFi. So these things, looking forward to see what will happen. I think it will be in May. At the beginning of May, they will start the merging of the unbounding adjustments. So was they announced at the end of April? They will squeeze the time of the unbounding, but I think this will be at the beginning of the May. And also, I think they need to push hard on the asset hub applications, because so far we can see is the hackathon of asset hub. There were like 200 of projects submitted, and actually we built one as well. This one, which named the dot pixel, is actually a canvas that for anyone, if you want to have any ideas of creation to paint, and there's a canvas that you can easily to play around and paint anything as you want. And it's built on Asset Hub EVM, and just connect the wallet with the EVM con and claim the faucet for the pass-through token and just play around. So for Asset Hub, need to see more major lending, borrowing, money market applications deployed there. So we might can see some strengthen of the power, the power of the products to be real achieved. So I think that's the first step. We need to see some progress there. So yeah, that's my point. Yeah.
Okay. Is there some very obvious changes that, for example, you can see that the users are unstaking, unbounding?
Yeah. Indeed. Users are unbounding. I think during the past months, 1.5 months, there were like just only for us on Bifrost VDOT, there were like 2 million of unbounding, and for the whole network, the staking ratio have been decreased about 4% in the staking front. But I think that makes sense, and it's normal. It's not only Polkadot, except Polkadot. For other proof of stake networks, they're still encountering the same situation, because people know where's it's the time to gather in the cash. So it's the trend. And I think this just a normal thing that I can understand. Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. The people, the capital always flows into places that more profitable. Maybe will flow into other DeFi protocol or someplace else. In that case, maybe it's a good thing to see. Okay, let's move to Pac-Man. With these changes, Dot's supply side has tightened quite a lot. Mandala chain is now live and plays an important role on the demand side. So could you share what kind of application demand you are seeing so far and what use cases are standing out at the moment?
And I think we should zoom out a little bit. Because if you talk about just the token demand based on use cases, dots, if you go back into the 2021, like parachains were one of the biggest use cases for Polkadot. There was I think millions of, I think over 200 million dot was locked on Moonbeam, Makala, and a lot of parachains had, but that didn't really help Dot in the long run. Like Dot is, where it is today in terms of token pricing. And obviously, no matter how great the tech is, if the token price is not good, you will lose a lot of community, a lot of interest. Even with the ETFs now, Max was saying earlier, but I think it's a little too late for ETFs for Dot because the confidence in Polkadot, I'm not talking about the tech, I mean the Dot token, the confidence is not there anymore. Like if this announcement had come back in 2021, I think the Dot would have been like 3 digits easily. But right now, I don't think it's gonna. It's not one of them things like everybody just rushes to buy Dot because we have ETFs and a lot of other things. I think now it kind of needs more of a miracle, the token price, than just a tech announcement. And so we actually had to consider all of that, and then from Mandala chain, we had to shift the narrative. Like, how can we actually be sustainable long term, and not just be limited to, let's say, one ecosystem. So this is why we actually ended up launching as Ethereum L2. So we're still obviously delivering the use cases in Polkadot, but we're going to be multi-chain. So we ended up being an L2 on Ethereum. The second thing was the use cases are you can lock millions of tokens on the side. Again, we've seen that with Dot parachains, but that's not just the only use case. Basically, the use cases we're working on with the government, with the Indonesian government, is basically there's licensing fees that people have to pay in KPG all the time. And there's also the governments, for example, or enterprise, when they are actually going to use the technology, the infrastructure from Mandala chain, they actually have to lock the certain amount of KPG, and they have to maintain that over the years. So there's a lot of demand that just comes from the use cases alone, and this is not talking about the tech. Tech brings its own kind of for example, there is governance and staking and all these kind of things, but we don't really see that as something that's going to bring demand in the token. I wouldn't buy a token and stake it if I don't believe in the token. I wouldn't just do that based on token price or speculation. So there has to be constant buying pressure, constant demand on the token. And I think we lost Max there, but I don't know what happened.
He dropped.
Maybe network issues, but yeah. So overall, I think when you say use the demand of the token or demand of the project, I think it's a mixture of use cases, mixture of what the community, the speculation, high market. Although a lot of projects talk about, oh, we don't want to talk about price, and but ultimately that's everybody's target. People just don't want to publicly talk about it, but at the end of the day, everybody wants to pump the token. And the reason, and it can only be done if you have the good tech to back it. And I think that's what we're working on Mandala chain with the use cases. So, for example, one of the use cases I can tell you that is going live very soon is Madisa. It's basically the medical records on chain. So, in very simple words, for example, you can go anywhere in the world to a doctor. You don't need to remember or carry paperwork with you about what your blood group is, how many surgeries have you had, whether you've had a heart attack, and if you're diabetic and what medication you're on and things like that. Basically, have an app with a QR code, and you can choose on your app what data you want to share with the doctor. And doctor on the other end can just scan the QR code. The doctor doesn't need to be on blockchain. He doesn't need to have a wallet. He doesn't need to know what the tech works. He just scans the QR code, gets the file, and gets the data what you have. And I think that's pretty cool. So this is just one of the use cases. We actually are working on the first 4, and they're meant to go live within the next. I don't want to put timelines because I know some of the Mandala community is watching and they'll be grilling me over it. But I think we'll the next 4 to 6 weeks. I think the next 4 use cases are going live, and so this is one of the very cool examples. If let's say, for example, in terms of hacks or if somebody hacks your data and somebody has access to your medical file now, they actually cannot tell of anything other than there's a person age such and such. They don't have your name. They don't have your address, your personal details. and this is his blood group, and this is his medical file. But they actually cannot pin that specific medical file to a person, because it's all basically on chain. It's all like kind of end-to-end security encryption through blockchain, through the infrastructure we're building. So these kind of use cases are the ones I think like solving real world problems. So you don't have to just rely on governance and stakings, and I think they're kind of becoming old school now. If somebody tells me like, staking is one of our biggest use cases, or governance, for example, or you can vote with on chain, and that's the reason you should buy the token, I think I'll probably walk away, to be honest.
It seems that Mandela, the application, the adoption of a government goes quite well, because we will see other, government are trying to adopt a blockchain. For example, China. I think for last cycle, the China government is, they are, advocating blockchain to be deployed in a lot of scenarios, but it doesn't end up very well. So do you think that there's some why do you think the Mandela government are so supportive to blockchain, and all of these use cases are could be all of these use cases it's hard because I have already saw some government use cases they want to push, but at the end of the day that people don't use it. So I just curious to know the more details about that part, the Mandela government, why they're so supportive to blockchain.
Let's start with China. I think China's like banned Bitcoin and then unbanned and then banned it again. I think it's like they have been very confused about crypto, and sometimes it has been. Oh, actually, you've got cat behind you, and I thought it was behind me in the reflection. That's quite funny. So China has been like, I'm not saying confused, but they have been very unsure about like what crypto can do, the potential of it. I'll give you another good example. So Pakistani government has banned crypto for, as far as I remember, they've never actually recognized crypto at all. But very recently, some of the what's it called, the IT department, so they hired some youngsters. So they actually sat down with the ministers and talked them through like, it's not what you think it is. It's not like a way to scam people. It's not like a way to just money launder and things. It actually has some really cool use cases. And it was like a light bulb moment for Pakistan. And they then realized and understand. Then next thing you know, the Ton's founder and Binance's founder, CZ, visits Pakistan and gets hired as a strategic advisor. And now they're actively working on building this like infrastructure, building like regulatory compliance within Pakistan to regulate crypto and to legalize crypto. But until like last year, they just thought it was something really frowned upon. It's like really illegal. It's just used for bad stuff. But which wasn't the case. But the case was they actually just didn't know much about it. They just didn't know. They didn't have somebody actually sitting with them, talking them in a language they understand. And thing with Indonesia is that a lot of, I don't know if you've seen, majority of the, I think 70 or 80% population is between age of 25 and 35. I've been to Bali a few times and I've attended like Bali Blockchain Summit. Most of the ministers are like people your age and my age. Usually when you talk about ministers and government officials, you think like old people, like 50, 60-year-old, 70-year-old, somebody that is kind of out of touch with technology. But Indonesian governments, they're young people, they really understand technology and they're really bullish on blockchain. So Indonesia is like already one step ahead in terms of education, in terms of understanding. And I think understanding is the most important part. Because if you don't understand the potential of what blockchain can do, then you would never really be like keen on it. You'd never really be willing to understand because you just think crypto is a scam. You can lose money on it, or you can do like some fraud or something on it, and that's it. I don't want to use crypto. But when you actually sit down and understand, I think that's why Indonesian government is like crypto friendly, and this makes our job very easy. I think in the coming weeks, in first week of April, we're actually going to have a government minister on our live stream with me and Michael on Mandala Chain's X account. So that'll be pretty cool. So we'll actually have somebody from the government come on live stream also, which was quite hard to get, to be honest, because there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of things that you have to agree on for a minister from the government to actually come on a live stream, because they don't know what the questions we're going to talk about and what are the topics. And obviously there is like some opposition, some politics, but it's quite cool to see that they're even willing to take this step and come on camera and talk about what they think of blockchain and how they feel like blockchain is going to help and kind of help them adapt this new phase of Web3.
Yeah, makes sense. Their policy is very how to say, very confirmed, like very stable, and they will stick to it. Not like China, they are very elusive, not very clear, and changes a lot. Okay.
I think China will get there as well. I think China just kind of needs to be more. I think education is a big part here, because I think last time, Christian, we talked about if somebody that is not very crypto literate and they buys a meme coin and loses, let's say, $1,000 or something, he will not understand what really happened. He will not say like, "Oh, I bought a meme coin and it was scammed." And it was a scam. He'll just say like, "I bought crypto and it was a scam and I lost my money." And then he will just be the educator of like crypto is a scam narrative all over the world. He's just basically shouting from the rooftops, but not really understand like, well, I bought a meme coin. It was my fault to buy something that I shouldn't have bought, or like I should have been careful or done my research. But it's not the whole crypto. It's not the umbrella effect. Like if you lose money on one thing, then it's just the whole thing is a scam. So I think it's just more of an educational thing than regulates. Because regulation comes when you actually understand what it is and like what are the drawbacks, what are the advantages, and this. Then the regulation comes. But if you refuse to understand at the start, like first step, then you never go past the second step.
Yeah, I agree with you, because education is very important, but I think at the end of the day, use cases is the most important aspect. For example, for AI, there's not so much education about AI, but since ChatGPT was launched, everyone knows about it. Everyone wanna use it. I think previously crypto, we have to admit that no matter what we wanna educate to the audience, to the market, or to the people unknown, but the most adopted application was trading and the hype stuff. That is true. That's why the people have impression of a crypto that they are scam. So I think we really need some good use cases that can not only tell people that what kind of technology we are, and we have to make sure that people can really see or can feel, can touch this technology, they can use the application directly to feel that what they can bring to their life. So I think this is what the whole Web3 should be. At least I'm looking forward to the ChatGPT moment of Polkadot, really. Okay. Let's move on to the next topic, AI, because this one keeps this topic we will mention it in each of our live streams recently, because it's revolving really fast and attracting a lot of attention, especially compared to relatively quiet Web3 market. Some people are even calling it a web 4.0, after the Web 3.0, which means that blockchain have already left behind. So I'm curious, how much attention are you guys currently paying to AI? And as more capital and attention shift toward AI, how are you adapting your strategy? Who wanna jump in first?
I can take this one first. Yeah. So I wanna answer your question from two different perspectives. Let's start with like sort of more the personal one. Okay. So I'm most definitely trying to integrate AI into my daily workflows. Absolutely, I love it. I really enjoy it. Got like a Claude subscription recently. and use it for all kind of like everyday tasks, creating presentations, organizing my calendar, stuff like that, like doing research. I mean, for a VC fund, obviously, research is, due diligence is like very important, and it used to be like, what analysts, a fund would hire like a bunch of like analysts straight out of MBA school or so to do a lot of research on projects, right? A lot of that can now be automated, right? And I think Claude is doing like an excellent job just looking at a project, coming up with like a SWOT analysis, right? Like what are the good spots, weak spots, doing like a competitor analysis that used to be quite time consuming, and so on and so forth. So like providing a lot of data, like at the end of the day, right, whether or not to go ahead with an investment decision is still up to us, right? And that's, a subjective, oftentimes like a subjective, especially for early stage investments, right? Subjective decision, right? How do you like the team? Do you have the feeling that they can pull it off, right? That they have what it takes to succeed, right? That's maybe a bit difficult for AI to make this assessment, but all the groundwork, all the research, yes, that is very, very useful. That is very, like, the AI is incredibly useful there. And I'm really enjoying it, right, to play around with that, because, at Harbor Industrial Capital, we're a small team, right? Essentially, we're a two-man team, me and Mario. But now with AI, I feel like I suddenly have like, 25 employees, right? Which is brilliant, right? Because they go out and do research and so on. So that's like a really, really good thing. We're absolutely embracing it, and I love it. And I obviously encourage everybody else to do the same, right? No matter if you're like a VC fund or a founder, right? If you're a founder of a project and you're not using AI tools, if you're not using Claude Cowork or Claude Code or both, you're probably doing something wrong, right? You will need it. That's for sure, right? It's not gonna take away the ideation phase, right? You're still gonna kind of come up with like some sort of like an idea, I guess, and find product market fit. But then on the way, right, like shipping the code, implementing it, doing testing, maybe doing some social media automations, some marketing automations through AI. Absolutely embrace it. Like, I don't know how you're gonna win in this space if you don't do it. Now, that's kind of one part of my answer. I also have a second part of an answer to your question, and that is, what should Polkadot do in relation to AI? And I think Polkadot could potentially have a huge role to play in this new age of AI, but maybe not so much in the way that people think, or maybe they do. I don't know. But what I'm personally interested in and excited about is this whole authentication part, right? Authentication of AI, of bots, essentially, versus humans. And I think especially now with OpenClaw getting rolled out, that is becoming incredibly relevant, incredibly important, right? I think this is going to be one of the biggest challenges of the next, 5 to 10 years, right? How do you differentiate bots from humans? I think it's going to be very, very hard, right? Very, very hard. It's not like it's one single solution. Especially OpenClaw, right? Because you can connect it to so many different tools, right? And then your agent goes out and uses this tool on your behalf, right? You can give your OpenClaw agent access to your Polkadot wallet, right? And then it interacts on, I don't know, some DeFi platform or on some in governance or something, like it was you, right? That's already happening. Like we've been testing that out, right? Lots of other people are testing it out. It works pretty well, right? Pretty seamless. But at the same time, right, while I love it and I embrace it, I think there clearly is a need for some sort of a system that is able to differentiate bots from humans, right? Because if we're not able to do that, like a lot of crypto primitives are going to die. I give you some examples, right? Like, I mean, one quite common one are like common marketing was airdrops, right? I mean, you can say airdrops are dead now because 99% of them just go to bots, right? And bot farms. Like that's a fact, right? There isn't really like much in terms of like Sybil resistance, unless of course you go to the other extreme and ask for like full KYC, in which case you're kind of very much on this surveillance kind of track, identifying any individual user, and thereby kind of moving away from these Web3 primitives again. So that's not really ideal either. Okay, airdrops are ones. Then other things that are kind of interesting that some guys are playing around with is like this subsidized gas fees, right? Or like free gas for up to this amount per individual, right? Which is, for example, for payment applications, pretty useful, right? Because I mean, you probably don't really care about like as a wallet provider, so about this like 1 cent or like half a cent, payment fee. That's not really where your margins are gonna come from. But it's like it removes like a lot of friction for onboarding if you're able to just tell users like, okay, if you're an individual, if you're a person, you don't have to pay gas fees, right? Let's say you want to send 3 USDT from A to B, okay, and then it's actually 3 USD that arrive and not 2.99, right? That's like a much better experience. But that kind of primitive that is evolving here only starts making sense if you have a way of differentiating bots from humans, right? Bots have their place, but for these kind of things, as a system design engineer, you have to be able to, see this distinction or make this distinction. And then a third example is like this whole social media game, right? I mean, on X now, you have so many bots, right? And there are, again, with OpenClaw, with other AI agents, there are new ways of linking, like connecting your agent to X, right? And to come up with like, AI generated content that is almost indistinguishable from humans, right? And yes, I mean, it has its justifications for many things that is useful, that is, but for social media, I mean, I really hope to have a system in the future also where, I can tell whether a post comes from or reply to my comment comes from a bot or from a human, right? Okay, why am I talking about all of that? Well, because it ties in squarely with proof of personhood, right? This new module that Gavin Wood and Polkadot has been working on since 3 years now, right? It's still not fully rolled out yet, right? But what we do know is that it's like a multi-modular approach. So it's not like one fix that immediately determines whether you're a bot or not. Because if it's just like sort of a single type of verification, it can get gamed quite easily, right? And I think these cryptographic primitives that Polkadot is designing for that are gonna be absolutely state of the art, absolutely leading the charge, and incredibly useful and incredibly powerful. And just one last thought here. So like Sam Altman and WorldCoin, right? They've once again been like in the news for all kind of the wrong reasons, namely that they're like dumping, all their WorldCoin tokens on investors, trying to kind of get out of what always has appeared to me like just like a bad approach of approaching like individuality. Like this idea of scanning your iris, right? I mean, first of all, to me, it just sounds very utopian, right? It's not really like a future that I like, where I have to kind of scan my eyeballs and then with that kind of interact with, I don't know, social media, for example, right? That's not, yeah. And then having, at the end of the day, this, highly centralized system controlling all the data. And of course, there are all these like, stories, where people, just went to some developing countries and then did like 1 million iris scans and just farmed the token and, then move on, right? So what I want to say is this kind of approach to individuality has already proven that it's not going to work, right? With Polkadot, yes, we don't have like all the pieces in place for it, but I know for a fact that Parity is working on some pretty interesting cryptographic primitives here. And as I said at the beginning, like the need for that, right, will be there. No question about that. That will be something incredibly important. And that will have like 1 million different use cases if we can get it right. It's not like an easy engineering problem to solve, because there are certain trade-offs, right? Trade-offs between, regulatory compliance, between disclosure, between preserving private information and making it easy to use, right? So there's a bit of a trilemma here. But I think Polkadot is on a good track to maybe not necessarily solving it, but like providing a better solution than anybody else. And if that is indeed something that we can do in the future, then voila, Polkadot has its new narrative that we've all been waiting for.
POP can differentiate from the real people, that can differentiate the real people from the board. That's gonna be unique demand in the AI area. But I really do hope that it could be, it can, it can be launching very quickly. I don't want any.
Me too.
Yeah, because I think there are a lot of ideas, but there are all long awaited. So the market is changing very fast. I think I really hope that this idea can launch quickly and can fit the market quickly and can evolve quickly. Okay, next. So Tyrone, Pac-Man, what's your take on that?
Pac-Man, you muted yourself.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there's a lot to take from what Max said, especially with the AI. I 1000% agree. I think there should be a difference between human and AI participation. Actually, I don't know if you guys actually follow the US markets. Like AI has been creating a lot of noise in like Anthropic as well. And like a lot of companies actually feel threatened because of AI, because there's actually no need for them to exist anymore. And actually at one point, I think 2-3 weeks ago, Microsoft was in quite a lot of, let's just say like quite a lot of hot oil, basically thinking like, well, what do we do here now? Because people pay a lot of subscriptions for Microsoft to do like basic tasks. But now with AI, you don't actually need to have a lot of things that Microsoft sells. So so it is good to have the proof of person, basically like still a way where humans can actually be differentiated and know that human can do better. AI is not the answer for everything. I mean, yeah, it makes your life easier, but then you still need a human at the end, on the other side, for sure.
Yeah, good point. Tyrone, do you have some?
Yeah.
Do you
Not pretty much to add. So Max and Pac-Man have already made this comment. So for me, I would say something under the dive or builders point of view. It's like using AI makes things easier if you are like a CEO or a product manager. So right now you can do lots of things like front end design and front end building, and all those sort of things that can be done by one person. So it's quite efficiency, but differentiating from human to a bot is the key, that how much of you are an expert in the field. So it's like, do you really have the sense of the things that you're building with? The AI is just always the tool, but ideas coming up from our brand. So to be differentiated with others, so we need to make sure we have the sense of building. And recently we've for Bifrost, we've announced the skill of the liquid staking, which is also the first ever of a liquid staking skill in the Web3. So is making AI and something like clients, so something like agents that can easily to find out and search for the liquid staking options of which is relatively have a higher income for the staking, for liquid staking. So we make this quite a simple skill, but and the war framework, we actually provide different choices for for the investors, so they can make they can make up their uh, different portfolio. So for but just by using an agent. So that's something like an initial idea and a novel thing, and we are still pushing forward on this direction. Make we can say make investor, if they have ideas what to do, so we may just provide the infrastructure, we just provide the basic and simple foundation things for them. That's what we can do.
Okay, I think, yeah, overall the AI could be a good assistant and could replace the automatic work of a protocol and make the application more user friendly and more smart. But I think AI's goal is not to be assistant. They want to be a people, a real human, or they want to replace the real human. So
yeah, maybe it looks like, yeah. We've got like a new AI personality taking over the world.
yeah, kidding. Okay, really appreciate everyone's sharing. I think that's all for today. Hope everyone can repositioning yourself in Polkadot successfully and can survive the the hard time, and to can all of us can have a great year, a great time for this year. Anyway, best wishes. So that's all for today.
Kristen, I just want to thank you as well. Your work has been amazing. I'm a huge fan of everything you've done for the Polkadot community over the years, and your knowledge and your participation. I see on the photos, your events, everything you've done. So yeah, thanks for being such a great part, and I look forward to actually we'll invite you on one of our own Mandala Chain live streams one day. And yes, thanks very much, Kristen.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks everybody.
All
Have
right,
a great day.
thanks for having us. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.